Good morning. Today, what we're going to do is I'm going to go over an introduction to the Identity Fingerprint Project. So the picture of the project that we're going to be doing, it looks something like this. What it is it's basically your individual fingerprint with a poem in the inside that I will show you on a later video. And we are practicing different fonts, different styles of writing, and then also coloring in a little bit all over the project. It's an introduction. It's an easy way to start the year. And so I'm hoping to get to know you a little bit better through this artwork. All right, so this artwork is based off of an artist, and her name is Cheryl Sorg. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this to the present view so that you'll be able to hopefully see it a little bit better. All right, so fingerprint portraits. So fingerprint, it's a mark made by the pattern of ridges on the pad of a human finger. It's used for identification purposes. So most of the time, if I'm in class, we'll do a question and answer session on where do you see fingerprints? What do people use fingerprints for? And students will give me answers like, well, if you go to jail, they book your fingerprints and so that they have a record of it if you commit a crime. Yep. They also take your fingerprints, I believe, on passports. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that you have to have your fingerprints in a passport. The other thing that we use, at least for teachers, is teachers will have to get fingerprinted also. So a lot of government jobs require you to get your fingerprints done. Some people have even told me that Six Flags requires you to do your fingerprints so somebody doesn't steal your season pass if you buy a season pass. The technology may be different now, but I had just heard that at one time. The other thing that's super common is your iPhones or your Android phones or whatever technology you're using uses your fingerprint so that someone else cannot log into your phone and steal it. So this is the featured artist. Her name is Cheryl Sorg, and this is a little bit about her. She was born in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1967, but she had spent about 22 years of her life off on the Northeast. And she said she's something of a Bostonian at heart. She moved to Encinitas, California from Boston in 2003. She does have an art background. So BFA in art, it stands for Bachelor of Fine Arts. It's what I have also. It says graduating with honors from Massachusetts College of Art in Boston, Massachusetts in 1999. Not every artist that we will talk about has an art background or an art education. It's not essential to have an art education if you are an artist. You can be an artist without having that college background, but I'll tell you that it's a lot easier to get a job or to people take you seriously if you do have an education. It says, my work has been exhibited in solo and group exhibitions in galleries and museums across the United States. And then she gives her website right here if you want to look a little bit more at her artwork. We are not going to read this because I think that's crazy. I borrowed this PowerPoint from someone else. And so, yeah, no. Okay, so whenever I have an image like this, what I would typically do is ask students to look at the image and then tell me what they see. So before we would read the title, I would give any information. We would look at it and say, okay, well, what is this a picture of? And people in the past have told me things like, it looks like mountains, or it looks like waves in the sea, or the thing on the bottom looks like a funnel or a tornado. And then we'd kind of talk about the color. Does the color have a lot of contrast? Contrast meaning light and dark. So this actually it's called The Banana Hole, is a text drawing consisting of the entire text of the short story, A Perfect Day for Banana Fish by J.D. Salinger, cut apart into snippets and assembled with acid-free adhesive onto engineering vellum. And it's 24 inches by 36 inches, which is actually pretty big if you're cutting out someone's story and gluing it on word by word. So that's what that actually is. It's J.D. Salinger's story, and she cut out each individual word and then pasted it into a new pattern. To be able to do something like this, you have to have an extreme amount of patience because it's going to take forever. And obviously, you can't have any carpal tunnel or arm problems because it would just never work. But I think this is kind of cool because it's a different idea. Now, when we look at things like copyright, this is where things get a little bit tricky because, you know, she took someone else's story and used it in her artwork. But if you notice, she's also giving the artist credit for that. And it says at the top, you know, by J.D. Salinger. So she's not saying she wrote this story. She's saying that she did take it from someone. Okay, I want to look at the next one. This is called The Wave, and it's a text drawing consisting of the entire text of the short story, The Seventh Man, by Haruki Murakami, cut apart into snippets and assembled with acid-free adhesive onto engineering vellum. Now, it says acid-free. If you've ever put printed photos and put it in some sort of photo album, they used to years ago not use acid-free paper, and it kind of made the prints, the photographs, kind of yellow a little bit. So now they use something called acid-free adhesive so that the stuff does not yellow. Okay, so what you can see here is a giant wave. It's made up of the text. You could see in here, she spaced out the words so that she would get another pattern. What I always point out in this image that is different from, let's say, one of the other ones is that she doesn't have a lot of contrast. The background is a value of gray that's very similar to this value. She doesn't have a focal point like the other one that we had here had this dark area, and that served as the focal point or the focus of the artwork. This next one here, although the wave is what I would say is the focal point, it doesn't contrast as well as the other one, in my opinion. So some people have said, well, this one is not as good as the other one. Remember, good in art is sort of a loose idea. You can't, unless you're basing your judgment on a set of criteria, you can't really say it's good or bad because that's an opinion. So these are fingerprint portraits that she did. So the same idea she took and did of different people's fingerprints, okay? If you look on your finger, you have a bunch of lines that are unique to you. You are the only one that has that particular set of prints. Now, your prints may be very, very close to someone else, but your DNA is unique. Okay, so this is a little bit a larger view of it. And this is a really up close. So you can see all of these are like stories, and she cut apart each word. So just imagine yourself trying to cut apart a book, take some tweezers, and then glue it on. I don't have the patience for this. I am pretty patient, but I don't have the patience for this. Okay, so that's what a black and white version of her art looks like. And then this is the color. Personally, I'm a color person, so I love this. So she took a magazine and cut out different colors and shapes and patterns and then put it into a fingerprint. So this is kind of a view of the right and the left. And usually we talk about opinions, like which one do you like better? Do you like the right one better? Do you like the left one better? And then why? And usually at the end of the day, people like different artworks for different reasons. So there really isn't a right answer to this question as long as you can back it up with evidence from what you're seeing. So I like the one on the left because it's more colorful and it draws me in. Whereas the one on the right, I feel like it's black and white. I can't see the lines in the fingerprints as well. And that's a valid reason. But if you can't back up why you think a certain way, then that's when it becomes not as good of a reason or answer. So we are actually going to be collecting our fingerprints for this. And everyone will have their own unique marker so that we are able to stamp it on the paper, and then we'll kind of see what we get after that. Thanks so much.